allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Alton?
Present.
Commissioner Creighton? Commissioner Acevedo?
Present.
Commissioner Reckner? Commissioner Brooks?
Present.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Present.
Chairman Morelli?
Present.
Commissioners Creighton and Reckner are absent. Case number 3267, application of Leonard and Anthony Mangelli of 245 Westchester Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the City of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.2K use, 9-1121 off-street parking, for 2-year conditional temporary variance for a two-family use at 245 Westchester Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 57, Lot 57, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Who will introduce a motion on this application?
Make a motion to deny.
Commissioner Acevedo has introduced a motion to deny the application. Who will second?
I'll second it.
Chairman Morelli has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Deny.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Deny.
Commissioner Brooks?
Deny.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Deny.
Chairman Morelli?
Denied.
This application has been denied. Case number 3262, application of Charles Raffmaieri, LLC, of 34 Shore Park Road, Great Neck, New York, for an appeal from administrative decision pursuant to General City Law, Section 81A. In this case, the building commissioner's letter denying 2 off-street parking spaces partially in the front yard, or in the alternative for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the City of Long Beach, New York. 9-113.2G off-street parking design standards for 2 off-street parking spaces partially in the front yard at 355 East Beach Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 142, Lot 64, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Who will introduce a motion on this application?
I'll make a motion to deny.
Commissioner Leonetti has introduced a motion to deny the application. Who will second?
I'll second that motion.
Commissioner Acevedo has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Deny.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Deny.
Commissioner Brooks?
Deny.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Deny.
Chairman Morelli?
Denied.
This application has been denied. Case number 3276, application of Michael and Wendy Goldstein of 83 Joyce Road, Plainview, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the City of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.13C lot area, 9-105.13D building area, 9-105.13E front yard, 9-105.13F side yard, 9-105.13F1 side yard, 9-113.2H off-street parking design standards for a 3-story with roof deck multiple dwelling with 6 units at 61 Neptune Boulevard, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 175, Lot 141, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Who will introduce a motion on this application?
I'll make a motion to grant.
Commissioner Leonetti has introduced a motion to grant the application. Who will second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Brooks has seconded the application. Commissioner Alton?
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted. Hold on, where's my stuff? Before we go on to the regular calendar, just want to make an announcement that case number 3286, which is the application of Long Beach Holdings 2 LLC of 80 West Walnut Street, has adjourned till the May meeting. So if anyone's here from that for that application, it will not be heard tonight. Resolution authorizing the chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals to enter into a formal agreement and stipulation of settlement agreement between the City of Long Beach, Commissioner of Buildings and Property Conservation Scott Kemmons, the City of Long Beach Zoning Board of Appeals, Sinclair Haberman, and Bel Air Building, LLC.
Those are the ones who wanted us to deny.
Good evening to the commissioners, Council Lupo, Secretary Lynch. My name is Rich Barrios. I'm Corporation Counsel here in the City of Long Beach. Before you today, before the Zoning Board, is a resolution authorizing Chairman Morelli to enter or execute rather, a settlement agreement to finally resolve the decades-old Haberman litigation. Just to run through it today, what this resolution is authorizing is just the execution of the agreement. There are still steps to be taken, meaning the city would have to enact some zoning legislation and actually bond for the payment of the settlement in this matter. I'll just draw back to some chronology for the board's edification. On May 17th, 2021, a judgment was entered against the city in the amount of $140,834,594.51. This was accruing interest at 9% per annum, about $1.1 million per month. As a result of all this decades-old litigation with the Haberman properties, Haberman has the vested right to build 2 10-story buildings and 1 7-story building just with the judgment. That's not with this settlement. So that's part of the settlement, but that's something he has a vested right to. As you'll also recall from that judgment against the city, individually named zoning board members were removed from the caption, and the judge found that none of the individually named members were liable under constitutional theory, so there's no individual liability there. Moving forward to December 28th of 2021, with that interest accruing, the city representatives, myself, our consultants, were negotiating with the Haberman parties, and they agreed via a letter of intent to stay interest in order to formally negotiate a full and formal settlement agreement. If you recall, I believe we had some meetings with council where our consultant went over some of the particulars of what that letter of intent entailed. That letter entailed a $75 million payment and zoning incentives in the form of legislation that would allow Haberman to build up to 13.5 stories. That is still the case with this final formal settlement. That settlement is published on the city website. I believe Carrie O'Farrell and I went over it with each of the zoning board members at an executive session. But going to the material terms of the formal agreement, as of the date of that letter of intent, we reduced the $148.648 million judgment to a payment of $75 million. $2 million is credited to us if Haberman never builds, and there's a penalty to us, to the city, if the contemplated zoning is revoked or successfully challenged in court. So what that really means is, to not hide the ball, we pay $75 million, we pass the zoning legislation. If for some reason that legislation is not successful, or if the city acts in bad faith to prevent Haberman from building that added height or density, we pay an additional $25. That's procured through the bonding process. So that's the cash payment portion of it. The second portion of it is passing zoning legislation and a community benefits bonus policy. What that essentially is, we amend our zoning code through the SEQA process with our zoning consultant, and we have until October 31st to do so. Again, what that will allow the city, or will allow Haberman to do, is build up to 13.5 stories, but just 2 buildings instead of the 3, and a parking structure right across the street on the north side of Shore Road. The community benefits policy is essentially modeled after a policy in other municipalities. One is New Rochelle, where essentially developers who are, I guess, subject to this policy can basically buy zoning incentives, either density, height, setbacks, etc., in exchange for things that are valuable to the city, such as obviously straight cash payment or parking in transit added in addition to whatever they plan on building. So if they create parking for the public, that's considered a bonus. Downtown beautification, affordable or workforce housing, a bunch of incentives like that. The conditions to effectiveness of this agreement has to be executed by all parties. All parties, meaning the zoning board is one of those parties because they're still named, which is why I'm here before you today. Another is that the city has to successfully raise sufficient funds to pay for this bond. To pay for this judgment, which in the form of a bond. After that, like I just mentioned, is the zoning legislation and community benefit bonuses policy, and the court has to so order everything. In terms of where we were fiscally, you might recall we were the #1 fiscally stressed municipality in the state. We've since improved. Moody's has given us a revised outlook. Not the best, but we're moving in the right direction. And on April 9th of 2022, in the on the governor's budget bill, the city was basically given the flexibility to issue longer-term bonds. Instead of the normal 15 years to issue these bonds, we can do it over 30 years, which may or may not save the taxpayer dollars. That's what we've been doing here when we've been negotiating, is to try to reduce the burden on the taxpayer here. Right now, we're consulting with our municipal advisor and some of our financial consultants to see, in light of the fact that rates may be going up soon, when the right time to bond is. So if any of the questions are, what's the actual tax implication, it's too soon for me to tell you what that is right off the bat. There will be other meetings aside from the one that I'm currently presenting to you. We're going to have a bond ordinance meeting for the payment. We're going to have probably several public hearings on the secret process, the zoning legislation, and the like. So I encourage all the zoning board members in the future to attend those future meetings if there are things you need to speak your mind on. And with that, if you have any questions, I'll do my best to try to answer them.
No, so, counsel, so at this point, then we will put this to a vote to whether accept it or deny the proposition.
Yeah, I did have one question.
Sure.
The change to the zoning, is it just for this particular lot or for?
It's, so part of the approach there was the city has to carefully amend its zoning legislation so as to avoid a spot zoning challenge, right? In order to accomplish that, what we did was we're going to extend the existing residential business A district eastward to stop at Lincoln. So there are other parcels that are impacted by this. As you know, the foundation block is one of those undeveloped parcels, and maybe a couple of other parcels that might be impacted by this amendment.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, I'm going to move to grant
Okay.
or to accept resolution.
Resolution authorizing the chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals to enter into a formal agreement and stipulation of settlement agreement between the City of Long Beach, Commissioner of Buildings and Property Conservation Scott Kimmons, the City of Long Beach Zoning Board of Appeals, Sinclair Haberman, and the Bel Air Building LLC. Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to authorize a resolution. Who will second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Leonetti has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This authorization has been granted.
Thank you to the
Thank you.
commissioners.
All right. The first case, you're going to call them, or and I have to sign some documents.
Case number 3287, application of Kelly Fruhoff of 511 West Fulton Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the Zoning Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach, New York. 13-82D, pool location, to maintain a pool installation in the rear yard at 511 West Fulton Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 19, Lot 28, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Okay, the applicant's here.
I am
Good evening. Name and address, please.
Kelly Fruhoff, 511 West Fulton Street, Long Beach, New York. One more time?
Just give us one moment, sorry.
Oh, absolutely.
Ms. Fruhoff, how long has the pool been in existence?
19 years.
And it's an above-ground pool with a deck around it? Is that
Yeah,
correct?
it's a semi-in-ground pool, Johnny Weissmuller.
And at this point in time, there is no permit for the pool, correct?
No, well, we permitted everything, from the electric to the national grid and for the pool itself. But after Hurricane Sandy, when we were doing work on the property, somebody reported that we put a new pool in, which we did not. It was the same old pool. But at that point, we were made aware that it was not far enough away from the fence.
And again, this pool's been there for 19 years in the same location?
Yep,
Okay, so basically, there's a 4-foot setback rule. The pool is, 2.4 feet from the pool, from the wall. So you're talking about a foot. or so, 4.5. No changes to the pool since then.
No changes at all.
Any members of the board have any questions?
1.6
Anybody?
feet, right?
1.6.
Yeah, 1.6.
Anybody in the audience for or against? I move to grant.
I second.
Case Case number 3287, application of Kelly Fruhoff of 511 West Fulton Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 13-82D, pool location to maintain a pool installation in the rear yard at 511 West Fulton Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 19, Lot 28, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Acevedo has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Thank you
Good
so
evening.
much.
Case number 3288, application of Timothy and Denise Murphy of 48 Delaware Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5D side yard for a new bedroom and bathroom on the second floor at 48 Delaware Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 260, Lot 4, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
Hello, Tim Murphy, 48 Delaware Avenue.
Okay. So, Mr. Murphy, basically, you're here for a new bedroom and bath on the second floor.
Correct.
48 Delaware. We're talking about basically a bump out, as I see it in the application and the plan. So basically, the second floor exists at present, am I correct?
Yeah, yes, it's not as big as the first floor.
And you will be adding now a bathroom and a bedroom to a pre-existing second floor, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. So tell us why you're requiring the setback change to 1.2 on the south yard setback when you need 4.
It's just to make the room more accommodating for a queen bed.
So
and a
basically,
small-
we're talking about a bump out.
I'm sorry?
We're talking about a bump out.
Bump out just on the right
In
side.
that area,
On the
okay.
right side going towards my
Let me
neighbor's
just go
house.
back and look at the plan. Your lot size is 30 by 60, correct?
It's the survey, I believe it is.
Okay. Standard lot?
Yes.
All right, so I just want to look at the design, yeah. Okay, so basically, the bump out is going to be just where the addition of those 2 rooms are,
Correct.
and not the entire side of the house.
No, just on the new addition. I believe on the plan it's the dark.
Any mechanicals going in there, or any air conditioning equipment on the side of the house going to be closer to your neighbors, or?
No, that wasn't at the point
Okay.
yet of the.
Just making sure, because sometimes I've seen bump outs where they're mechanical, you know, and.
No, this is the
those are-
structure to make the room
Yeah,
a
those are
little
bump
wider.
outs that make noise, you know?
No, I
Okay.
understand. Yeah, of course.
So, all right. Okay, so I don't have any further questions.
I have some questions.
Any members?
Yes.
So you're creating a 14 by 18-foot approximately suite,
I guess, yes.
which extends 2 feet out from the profile of the house.
Correct.
Why don't you go to the,
I'm going both sides. It's over an existing deck and a door that goes out onto the deck.
yeah, I understand that. So I don't understand the need to have to extend into the setback.
I believe if I went 6 feet to the left,
Yeah.
which would be over my deck, I
Right.
would need much more columns into the concrete footings, foundations. It was a much bigger project. It would cover half of the deck. I guess it would come out 6 feet, so the architect suggested going both sides, 3 feet.
Well, it's certainly a nicer, creates a nicer suite, but it's at the expense of, proximity to the next house over. And I'm not quite sure what justifies doing that.
It was structurally, it was an easier project, I guess. I'm not the architect. It was coming out 6 feet over the door that's on the first floor that comes out on the deck. Was I would have to go down new foundation, I believe, new footings, steel column.
Well, you're cantilevering, which is not a...
Correct.
Which is not a simple construction.
But I believe it's a lot, It was easier doing it that way and much less costly than putting footings down on the first floor. Where the,
No, I understand it might be simpler to do it that way, but again, it's kind of creating a precedent where, I don't see a burning need for it. I agree it would be nicer
Yeah.
for you, but.
it's the way it was laid out, it was more aesthetically, I don't know, I'm not sure what the word is, but it was a much lesser construction project. And I did see other places, I have pictures of them, of where it was done in new construction and rehabs, but,
Did you submit those pictures to the board, sir?
no, I have them here, I found them afterwards. Two of the addresses I had, the other two I lost the paper with the address on. I mean, I'm sure they would the right way and did it the right way, so that's why I went around and took pictures.
Are these multiple sets?
Yes,
Okay.
they're all the same. The addresses I had are written on the back of the two that I'll take it off. It is a small clip.
I almost hit Barry.
You had the meeting before we throw a paper clip. Now you're the-
Any other questions? Is that passing around?
Yeah, I'll pass them this way.
There's a lot of them. We fold it off.
No, thank you.
Yeah, you just keep it. Back to me. I mean, we are familiar with homes in the area, and I know some of them we have
Oh, no,
approved
this is somebody, this is
on
another.
occasion, and I know
Another incident. It's
the
somebody.
concern is always
somebody
about
did it elsewhere.
mechanicals, because if it's for the purposes of expanding a room, depending on the size of the room, we've allowed it, but as I said, sometimes people want to bump out to hang air conditioning equipment or whatever.
That's not my intent, no.
Yeah, or an elevator, sometimes we've allowed an elevator to project out.
Yeah, elevators,
Yeah.
elevators. Any other questions, folks? Any members of the board? No? Any members of the audience, for or against? Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant.
I'll second.
Case number 3288, application of Timothy and Denise Murphy of 48 Delaware Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance on the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5D side yard for a new bedroom and bathroom on the second floor at 48 Delaware Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 260, Lot 4, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Commissioner Alton has introduced a motion to grant the application. Chairman Morelli has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Deny.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Case number 3289, application of Daniel Sullivan and Jessica Fagarazzo of 105 Florida Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5B height, 9-105.5C front yard, for a new second-story addition at 105 Florida Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 58, Block 92, Lot 27, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Hi,
Applicants, can you,
Jessica Fagarazzo,
address, please.
105 Florida Street, Long Beach, New York.
Okay, so basically, why you're here, from what I see in the application, is that you're adding a second story to the home.
Yes,
Okay, now, tell us first of all, you're adding and you're looking for a height of 27. 4 and 5/8, so you're going about 4 and change over the code. Now, we'll handle the height issue first. So now, please tell me a little bit about the height that you're adding. What are the rooms going to be that you're adding to that second floor?
2 bedrooms. for my growing family.
All right, that's cool. Now, the question I have from looking at the plan,
Yeah.
you're on a 60 by 60, correct? It's a 30 by 60, right? Single lot. So now, in the addition of the second floor, basically, do you know how high the ceiling is?
That it will be, or
In the
that
new-
it,
Yeah, the new floor. 8-foot ceiling, 9-foot ceiling?
whatever you tell me it to be.
Okay. On the plan,
On the plan, I'm not 100, I thought I saw 8, but I could be wrong.
I think it shows 9-foot,
Nine.
Yeah,
plus
so-
plus a cathedral ceiling over most of the area,
Yeah.
most of the addition.
Okay.
so the questions that we have, and again, we don't have to vote on it tonight if you don't know the answers and, you want to research it. The thing is that, in looking at the plan, what Commissioner Leonetti just mentioned is that you're adding like a fresh new floor, which I understand, and you're adding a floor that's gonna take you like 4 feet plus over the code, which in and of itself is not, a big issue. But the question or the point they were going for is how you're gonna get there. See, in other words, we as a board also have an obligation to minimize the impact on the neighborhood, right? Can you hear me, or do I need
I
to
can
speak
hear
into
you,
this
you're
thing?
fine.
Which I don't really like. But anyway, so the thing is, as a board, we want to kind of minimize the impact to the neighborhood. So not so much to 27 feet, because we have allowed that. The problem is how we're getting there. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is that you're getting there with a 9-foot wall ceiling instead of maybe an 8-foot wall. Part of it is because also above that, you're going to put a cathedral ceiling, which is nice.
You know what, Rocco, I'm looking at it a little more closely. I think it's not a cathedral ceiling.
Okay.
I don't recall that,
Yeah.
even
Okay.
asking.
So let's back it up then. So let's not even call it a cathedral ceiling, but you're going 9 feet instead of, let's say, the regular 8 feet. And I understand why you'd want it. I mean, I'd like a little higher too. But then the pitch of the roof, right? There's all different measurements, You can have like an 8 on 12, 6 on 12, 4 on 12. The shorter the number, the less steep the roof is, almost getting down to a flat roof. So my question is that would you be able to accept, to minimize the impact of that 4 feet, maybe down a foot or two, either to go with an 8-foot wall instead of a 9-foot wall, or to maybe flatten down the roof a little bit? So let's just say, instead of giving us like a 6 on 12, maybe you give a 4 on 12 or 5 on 12, if 5 could be done. Because usually, every inch on 12 may lower the ceiling or the height of the house by about 9 inches or so. So I'm thinking that maybe, if you want to think about it, you don't have to vote on this. If you want to think about it, you might want to drop the ceiling down to 8 and maybe take the pitch of the roof down a little bit, because you'd probably save your neighbors about 2 feet of the height. I mean, I don't know if
Shockingly,
that'd
our
be
neighbors are
significant to you.
above all of our homes.
Huh?
All of our neighbors are above us anyway.
Okay.
I guess my question would be, from a time constraint, kind of under a little bit of a time constraint. So I was just wondering exactly, does that not give me an attic to put my things in, things like that? I think that's kind of why we wanted the pitched aspect of that, so that we can put
Okay.
storage in that
Okay.
aspect.
And the thing is, I mean, is there any kind of compromise that you think you could make? Like, in other words, 8 feet instead of the 9 feet on the wall, and maybe keep the pitch, or, I mean, I'll appeal to the architects or the engineers on the board. Mike or Barry, can you guys envision that if we went, let's say, to a 5 on 12, that would significantly impact the height or the attic space? Or if we drop the wall down to 8, could we still go with a 6 on 12 or not?
I'll go with one or the other.
Huh?
One or the other. I don't think we need to do.
So we could lower the house by like a foot, I mean, if you would want to think about it, I mean, I know you may feel, is anybody else with you for the application, or you
Just
by
my
yourself?
husband.
All right, I mean, the board could vote on it if you want to vote. The board could not vote on it if you want to think about it and come with some documentation, a letter to the board saying, hey, I'll go with this, after maybe talk about it, you know, at home or whatever. It's up to you. I mean, you know, we're just raising some questions.
If time is a consideration and we wanted to consider granting it with a 1-foot reduction, however they want to figure out how to do it.
I think we could do that.
I think that would be a way to go.
All right.
That works.
And you could get there, however you want.
So it could
Any
either be
members
part
of
of the
the-
pitch or the ceiling, or the
Yeah,
ceiling height.
we just want to see,
you could
you know, it's a
split it.
little bit, you know, we don't even have to negotiate, honestly, but we're, you know, we want to be fair to everybody, and we want to be fair to your neighbors, too, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, is anyone in the audience looking to be heard on this case? All right. No, so I would move to grant a variance with a condition that there is a 1-foot reduction in the height of the house. So that gives you a lot of latitude, because you can discuss it with the architect, and if he wants to pinch the wall down a little bit, you know, take in a little bit, just give us a foot, and I would be willing to grant that with that condition, okay?
Perfect.
Fair enough?
Fair enough.
All right,
there a
so I'll
second?
make the motion for that.
I'll second it.
And Commissioner Leonetti's going to second.
Case number 3289, application of Daniel Sullivan and Jessica Fagarazzo of 105 Florida Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5B height, 9-105.5C front yard, for a new second-story addition at 105 Florida Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 58, Block 92, Lot 27, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to grant the application with conditions. Commissioner Leonetti has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant with conditions.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant with conditions?
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant with 1-foot conditions.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Grant with conditions.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant with the 1-foot reduction condition.
This application has been granted with conditions.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck.
Do I need anything?
You good?
Yep, we're good. Case number 3290, application of Dennis O'Grady of 112 Aspen Street, Floral Park, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-113.1 location of off-street parking. For new off-street parking on a vacant lot at 92 New Hampshire Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 231, Lot 108, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Name and address for the record, please.
Dennis O'Grady, 112 Aspen Street, Floral Park, New York.
Okay. So, Mr. O'Grady, basically, we see that you're here because basically, I know you have, it looks like 2 lots on the same side of the street, am I correct?
No,
Opposite
opposite
side.
side, right, directly across the street.
So now, you're looking basically for off-street parking on the vacant lot. Now, the vacant lot that you're looking for the off-street parking, I believe, is a 30 by 60 lot, am I correct?
No, 45 by 60 is the
Okay, so
vacant
you
lot.
have an extra
Yeah.
half of a lot?
Right.
Okay. So the second question is that there is no house on the present lot, nothing, it's completely vacant?
It's vacant,
No foundation, nothing?
nothing.
Okay. And was that always a vacant lot, or was the house on that?
It was a house, in fact, this piece of property had a permit in 2012 for the 2 spots. And Sandy, the work was to begin 5 days after Sandy. So Anthony Bella, you know, we kind of talked and said, forget about it at this time. So, you know, the house was pretty much destroyed by Sandy, so I leveled it. I got a contractor and leveled it, so
Okay.
I've just,
So probably your plan one day is to build another house on this thing?
if I come up with, you know, a lot of money,
Yeah, okay. But at this point, also now, if you had the curb cut, even though that is basically the parking side of the street and you'd be taking away the spot of a curb cut, you're gonna be able to put a couple of cars on that off the street.
I had 2 cars, Anthony said, I think it would be 18 by
I
20.
understand. And ultimately, you could build a house on that property by code. If you said you wanted to, money-wise, you could do it. So it is certainly a 45, is a buildable, more than buildable lot in the West End. And certainly any 30 lot is a lot that if a new house were to be built on it, they would have to have off-street parking, so there would have to be a curb cut put there in that place.
Just to confirm, there is no curb cut there now, is that
No,
correct?
sir.
Okay,
No
thank
curb.
you.
What else are you using the lot for? Do you use it as a yard also?
I've just been paying the taxes on it. I live right across the street, you know, in this, you know, for the most part.
And you don't have parking in your own house? You don't have
No,
off-street parking?
no, we
Gotcha.
don't.
Okay.
And, you know, I plan to enhance the property. If I get the variance, I'll put up a fence. I have a cyclone fence there now because it was basically a dog walker's park. So you can imagine what I was cleaning up all the time. So that's why I put a cyclone fence
Yeah,
there.
I'm playing. All right, any other members of the board?
No?
Anybody want to speak
Can make a
for
nice
or
bocce
against?
court there or something.
We had a lot of baseball and wiffle ball
Yeah.
years back.
Let me know when the game's
I'll move to grant.
I'll second.
Case number 3290, application of Dennis O'Grady of 112 Aspen Street, Floral Park, New York, for a variance on the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-113.1, location of off-street parking, for new off-street parking on a vacant lot at 92 New Hampshire Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 231, Lot 108, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Leonetti has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, you're welcome.
Case number 3291, application of 80 Connecticut Avenue LLC and Robin Bender of 78 Connecticut Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5C front yard, 9-105.5D side yard, for a new front yard deck at 80 Connecticut Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 58, Block 92, Lot 13, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
All right, good evening, name and address.
Hi,
please.
Robin Bender, 80 Connecticut Avenue,
Okay,
and
so,
78 Connecticut Avenue.
we're both. It's 80 Connecticut, right?
Yes.
And you're from 78.
Yes,
So 80 Connecticut Avenue LLC is who?
that's
You.
correct. That's me.
Okay. So basically, just two things on the application denials. Is so now we're talking about the front yard that's 10 feet and with an open porch. So basically, you're going to do a front yard that's going to come to about 1.5 feet from the
Yes.
property line.
Yes, so equal to all the neighbors that have built up. I just took a picture of some of the neighbors that were just coming out to where they are.
Okay, so this is a photograph of the front of the house, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so basically, you're gonna be getting rid of the stone porch, patio, whatever you wanna call it. You're gonna be erecting a new deck, and that deck is going to come out to close to the property line. And the footings, it's gonna be a wooden deck, I'm assuming. right?
Yes,
And that deck that comes out, the footings of that deck are gonna be recessed in though, right? They're gonna be about 2-3 feet from the
Correct.
property line. So the deck itself comes to about 1.5 feet of the property line, and the footings are gonna be in about 2 feet before that.
that's correct.
Okay. When I look at the front of the house in the photograph, right, the deck is going to be the same size as the patio that's there now, or is it gonna be widened and take away the stairs or change the way the stairs are?
So I'm not looking at the architect pictures right now, but I believe that it's actually might be smaller because we have steps on the other side. So now we're moving the steps to the other side.
Okay,
And then, yeah, so it might be, it's gonna be wider, but not right now it's like the width of the whole house. And I don't believe it's going to be as wide as the whole house now. The steps might be,
I see.
right, it looks actually might be a little smaller from the width of the house.
Okay, so really,
So it's just coming out more, not
yeah, but
bigger.
I'm saying, when I look at it at the front of the house, the width is not gonna be any really basically different than what it
That's
is now.
correct.
It's
Yes.
just gonna protrude out further.
Yes,
All right, so that addresses that. So now the side yards, you're going to be rebuilding the side yard stairs. So the
Correct.
way that you're gonna access the deck is going to be from the side of the other side of the house. So you already have one set of stairs that basically goes, into the house. That's gonna basically remain in that area, but you're gonna be accessing it also from the other side of the house, because you've shortened the deck a little bit over there, that's where you shortened it. But part of that shortening is gonna be, I'm assuming, a 3-foot projectional width for the stairs.
correct.
Okay, so that encroachment of the stairs is going to bring you within that, I believe, 1+ feet of the property. Now, had you considered any other plans as
Yeah.
far as putting the stairs in a different location?
We tried to
or
put 'em in.
Was that the only location that really worked?
Yeah, we worked with Howard Curtis was the architect, and we worked with him to try to get the stairs inside, but it really takes up, it's a pretty small house, so it takes up a lot of room. Just living space seems to be so small as it
Okay.
is, so we did try to do that and design it that way, but it really wasn't working
Okay.
within the living space.
So now, the house that's next to the staircase.
Correct.
Is that your house, the other house that you own, or you own the
No,
house
I'm on the other side.
Yeah,
And that's Jim that lives there. I spoke to him. He's excited for it because I'm beautifying the neighborhood. I mean, this house has been falling apart
Okay.
with no changes for, I'm there 26 years. I purchased the house just because it was falling apart. The owner of the house
and
hasn't
you
lived.
live next door?
I do. He hasn't lived there in 20 years that I've lived there. He's had people in and out. So I purchased the house because I just,
Yeah, when did you buy the house? Just recently?
we had a problem, right? We were supposed to close in April or May, and he had a tenant that wouldn't leave, ended up closing in December.
Of 21?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so now I understand. You're basically beautifying what is kind of an older, kind of
Yeah.
rundown house.
I'm also helping my neighbor because I'm gonna redo the cement, talk to him about redoing the cement on
And
the
actually,
side.
on the, and actually on the side of that house, further in the back, it looks like there's already a staircase
Yes.
back there anyway.
There is.
Right,
Yeah.
are you at zero setback right now on that side?
I don't know what that
Well,
means.
You're right up against the property
you're
line.
right up
Yeah.
against the property
Yeah.
line
Yes.
already.
Okay. And that looks like a stone existing staircase.
That one's gonna be rebuilt, I think, but
Ah.
the upper stair and the lower stair look like they're gonna match. So-
Yes, that's correct. They're gonna be
All right.
rebuilt. The whole outside,
I don't have any
hopefully.
further questions. Any members of
Okay.
the board have any other questions? Audience, any questions? Comments for or against? Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant.
No second.
Case number 3291, application of 80 Connecticut Ave LLC and Robin Bender of 78 Connecticut Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5C front yard, 9-105.5D side yard, for a new front yard deck at 80 Connecticut Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 58, Block 92, Lot 13, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Commissioner Acevedo has introduced a motion to grant the application. Chairman Morelli has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Case number 3292, application of Raymond and Ingrid Carolina of 11 East Market Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-113.2G off-street parking, 9-113.2H off-street parking size, for new off-street parking in the front yard at 11 East Market Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 94, Lot 57, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Good evening. Name and address, please.
Hi, good evening. I'm representing the homeowners. My name is Christina Bravin. It's Morano Expediting, 2938 Hempstead Turnpike, Suite 212, Levittown, New York.
Okay, so let's discuss basically the issues which are really together but sort of separate in terms of items of the code. So basically, you're going to be placing 2 spaces in the front yard, and that is because you're now going to, do you already have a curb cut that leads into those spaces?
Yes, and it's currently used as parking for 2 cars side by
Is it a single
side.
curb cut or a double curb cut?
It is a,
Double wide curb
I
cut?
believe it's single.
Okay, so as a result of that, basically, now you're going to, what's that? Because I'm looking, yeah, it is a curb cut, but I'm looking right now from the photograph that was submitted, it looks like, at the very least, a double curb cut that's there already. So now, are you looking to change that curb cut?
You're correct, there are 2. I'm sorry, I was looking at that little brick median
Yeah,
in the
so-
middle.
so
There are
the
2, it'll
first
remain the
question
same.
I have is that it's a pretty wide curb cut. I don't really understand how they got it to begin with, because you know, it looks like there was a garage there, or there is a garage there. So, you know, technically, the curb cut would really just be the width, pretty much, of that driveway going into the garage, and it seems like that piece of maybe cement or pavers, you know, may have been at one time leading to the front door, you know, maybe a bush, a garden, or whatever it was. And it's just kind of odd that to the right of that on the photograph, there's another curb cut, or part of the same curb cut. It's just unusual, because it looks to me like that curb cut may be placed at, you know, at another time. Are you planning at the present time to change or enlarge the curb cut in any way?
No, there will be no alterations. The reason for this application is the house had a fire in September of 2021, so they're undergoing renovations, and they'd like to convert the garage into habitable space, so they need the parking in the front
Okay,
now.
So now, what I'm seeing here also is that the parking space, which is 113.2H. So now, how many parking spaces are you going to end up with off-street in the front of the house?
2 will be directly located in front, and then 1 could be behind in that side area.
So in other words, you're planning to park 2 cars in front of where the garage is, right? And then you're planning a third car.
I think 1 in front of the garage.
One in front of the
and
garage,
two-
two tandem.
two
Right,
tandem to the right of the
exactly.
garage.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, so it's that second tandem spot that is now deficient, right? Because it's 8.1 instead of 9.
Correct, instead of 9.
And you have an extra foot.
Is it
Now, at
two-family
this
house or
point-
one-family house?
This is a legal
applicant-
2-family home, yes.
Mr. Carolina, he lives in the house?
Yes, he does. Him and his wife.
I just, like I said, the only question that I had was where that double curb cut came to be on a piece of property like that, because it just doesn't look like it fits, you know?
And that short length won't create that the second tandem car to butt out onto the sidewalk.
It's the width, Steve.
It's
That's
the width.
Right, it's the
8.1
width.
instead of 9.
So-
He
and I
has
think the
21 feet instead of 20, so he's good on, he's extra on the length.
The generator here is the fact that the garage is going away, and it's going to become livable space, so they're going to park in
Yeah, there's no
the
garage.
driveway,
There's
which
three
is where,
spots, no
which is where they
garage.
probably parked before anyway. You know, I don't know what's in the garage, but hardly anybody puts their car in the actual garage.
Well, usually storage in these little houses.
Yeah.
All right, do any members of the board have any questions? Anyone in the audience? Anyone want to make a motion on the case?
I'll make a motion to grant.
I'll second. You want to second it?
Case number 3292, application of Raymond and Ingrid Carolina of 11 East Market Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance on the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-113.2G off-street parking, 9-
I'm really sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah.
I have to, forgive me, my name is Joe Lupo, I'm the attorney for the zoning board.
Sure.
I just have a silly question. You had mentioned that your firm is from Levittown and Hubs Turnpike.
Yes,
On the paperwork, it says that it's 18 Mitchell Road, West Hampton Beach.
She's the expediter.
Oh, you're
I'm the
right.
expediter.
She's the expediter.
My
Yeah,
apologies,
Gabby's the
sorry.
author.
No worries.
Well, that was a silly question, but I
Yeah.
had to know, thank you.
Yeah, she's the
Case number 3292, application of Raymond and Ingrid Carolina, 11 East Market Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-113.2G off-street parking, 9-113.2H off-street parking size. For new off-street parking in the front yard at 11 East Market Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 94, Lot 57, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Commissioner Leonetti has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Brooks has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton?
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Case number 3293, application of Anthony Ricardo of 728 Westchester Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.3B side yard, 9-113.3 removal of off-street parking, for new side yard stairs at 728 Westchester Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 250, Lot 125, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Ricardo. Address, please.
728 Westchester Street.
Okay. So let's address the items of the code that are
Yes, sir.
you're seeking relief from. All right, so right now you have an existing 7.9, which you're above the requirement, and you're proposing an east side of 4.6. How do we get to the 4.6?
I recently put a balcony in the rear, and I would like to put a staircase on the side, which is 36 inches wide. I
So
believe
basically, it's just the staircase
Yes.
that's bringing you into that.
Yes, so there,
So it's encroaching on the setback by basically half a foot.
yes.
Okay. All right, so now, the removal of the off-street parking space would be because of the provided staircase that you're putting in?
Elimination of my garage. But I
Okay,
can,
so, let me just understand, why do you need the staircase in the first place?
simply to access the balcony above. This would basically change my garage into storage. My driveway easily still accommodates 3 cars. So it's basically, if you look at the photos from the front of the house, you'll see that minus all the construction equipment, I could still fit 3 vehicles in my driveway. I just wouldn't be able to put a vehicle into my garage, which I've never even thought of doing since I moved in 2007. So really, the staircase is just to access the rear balcony.
Now, the question is, just for the record,
Yes,
this is a one-family house,
yes,
correct?
yes.
Okay. What's on that second?
My 3 bedrooms are on the upper level, and I built the rear balcony simply to enjoy with my family. I couldn't afford an extension or anything like that, so I put the balcony up there, and just to have fun 6 months out of the year and just have a place to sit.
Okay. So the balcony is not really truly a deck, right? It's more of like a little,
It's
what, do you know the dimensions of it are?
It's 23 by 18. It's the size, it's the width of the house, and it's the length, it's 23 feet long. So it's a large balcony in the back, but the staircase does run the complete length of it, and the, what do you say, rise and run equal out, so.
So you have a porch underneath it, I see.
Yeah,
right?
yes, sir, yes, sir.
What is that, like a slightly pitched roof over that extension in the back right
Yes, it
now?
is. There's a membrane over that.
So you're cutting that off?
So it's a waterproof it's a porch, a covered porch
Covered
in the rear,
porch.
yes. So I believe it's about 5 inches that it encroaches on the property line.
It's all towards the back of the house.
Excuse me, sir?
It's all towards the back of the house.
Yes, yes. So to the back of the house, I'm fine with the measurements. It's to the east where it encroaches 5 inches. But that still leaves me with, I don't know the exact number, but a good amount of room, way over 36, I think it's about 4.5 feet, if I'm not mistaken, to get through.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Any members of the board? Anyone in the audience? I'll move to grant.
A second.
Case number 3293, application of Anthony Ricardo of 728 Westchester Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.3D side yard, 9-113.3 removal of off-street parking for new side yard stairs at 728 Westchester Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 250, Lot 125, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Leonetti has seconded the motion. Commissioner Walden?
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo?
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks?
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti?
Grant.
Chairman Morelli?
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Case number 3294, application of Castle Quality Homes of 354 West Market Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-113.28 off-street parking curb cut size to extend the existing curb cut at 142 West Fulton Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 67, Lot 121, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Good evening, Mr. Kelly.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Lupo, Secretary Lynch. I like the way Rich had introduced himself. I'm going to adopt that. Dennis Kelly, 120 West Park Avenue, Long Beach, New York, 11561. Here on behalf of the applicant. This concerns what the building department described as a 56-foot continuous curb cut. I take issue both with the continuous curb cut interpretation of what's here, as well as the 56 feet. First, what I'd like to give you, if I may hand it to Mrs. Lynch, a survey that's much like the survey we submitted with the application, but this survey actually has the dimensions of the curb cuts. If you look at the surveys I submitted, I didn't take note of the fact that there was no dimension for each of the curb cuts. So what we're handing you now demonstrates the curb cuts. So first, this is 142 West Fulton Street. You may remember this property. It's 75 feet wide. It's a property for which we came and made applications to subdivide and build two-family houses, where there was one existing two-family house that was relatively run down. The zoning board was good enough to grant our application to subdivide to the extent that we built two one-family houses. So then my client decided he would just prefer to stick to the two-family house. And he's built actually a beautiful two-family home on the block. What he's asking for is an additional curb cut on the east side of the property. If you look at the photographs, you'll see two existing curb cuts and one proposed curb cut that will be in front of that easterly entrance to the garage that's underneath the FEMA compliant building. I want to just suggest to you that if we built two one-families, we would have at least probably almost close to 40 feet of curb cut for the two one-families. It may even have been larger than that if they were FEMA compliant houses. Elevated in the air, it could easily be 30 feet curb cuts to allow two cars to pull in the driveway and park underneath the homes. So I don't think what Mr. Princiata, the principal of Castle Quality Homes, is asking for is out of the realm of possibility. If you drive through West Home, you're going to see, if you look closely, right? A lot of times we drive through and we don't even pay attention to curb cuts and driveways. You'll notice that there's quite a number of homes with very wide driveways. In fact, there are a couple on West Fulton as you drive west towards Lindell, in which you will see a 30-foot wide lot with almost the entire 30 feet being driveway. That's 100% of the curb in front of the house. Here, it's not 56 feet. If you add the total widest widths as you see on the survey, the total length of the combined curb cuts is 46.1 feet. 56 feet of the 75-foot frontage would be 75% coverage. Here with 46 feet, it's actually considerably less, it's 61%.
My question to you, though, Mr. Kelly, would be this. I mean, I'm not really following 100% that, you know, all these curb cuts that he has, especially the one to the side of the house, was actually, you know, just approved with the original variance. But my question to you would be this. If the board were to grant the curb cut in front of this garage, I'm assuming that this is where you want the curb cut, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Would he be willing to close up the curb cut at the side of the house? Because it is taking a spot off the street, and either he could access that side yard through the one curb cut that he already has, or perhaps if he widened it just a little bit. But then if you were to put the curb back there, that could accommodate somebody else's car off the street. It would almost be like a swapping of the curb cuts, because if he's going to ask for another curb cut in front of that garage, which I understand why, I don't know for sure that that other curb cut to the far end of the property or in between the two homes should even be there in the first place.
Well,
so the thing is, would the client be willing to fill in that curb cut and then have the one curb cut in front of that new garage that he needs the curb cut for? Because it looks to me like, you know, he chose to reconfigure, you know, the way that the house is built into a two-family. So, you know, since it's not two one-families, and it's in essence a two-family, it's really not the same. And I don't know if he really needs all that curb cut space, because, you know, you're talking about, you know, homes in the West End that are, well, let's say 30 feet wide and have almost 30 feet of curb cut. But, you know, this is not an area particularly that isn't that easy to park. There's parking issues all over. And my question is, you know, the curb cut would, you know, if we were to grant them another curb cut, would be far wider than you want to, you know, see in the West End. I mean, yes, if you want to do a ratio and say, well, all right, you know, in the West End, a 30-foot curb cut is 100% of the property, and on this, you know, particular site, it's not 100%, you know, percent of the property, but it's still big. I mean, if you averaged, you know, if you cut it, you know, and measured it in terms of feet, it's probably double of what a 30-foot curb cut would be in the West End. So my question to you would be, would he be willing to fill in the other curb cut that I don't really think he needs if he's got one in front of one garage, he's got one in front of the other garage that we were to grant him. And now if he still wants to park along the side of the house, you know, he can reconfigure that a little bit and pull a car in next to it.
So, just for the sake of clarity as to what you're suggesting, Mr. Chairman, are you discussing the possibility of widening the curb cut, for lack of a better expression, in the middle? In other words, that smaller one on the western side of the house that goes to the western garage?
Yeah, maybe, you know,
You
but
probably
I
have
would just like to
curve
maybe
it
see
around, right?
a car, because he can still get into,
Yeah.
he can still get into the driveway and then get into the back of the property, because there's a garage in the back of that property, right?
Right, and that's the reason for
Yeah.
the wide curb cut, because
Yeah.
it leads to a double-car garage in the back.
I'm just trying to figure
Southwest
if there's a way
corner.
that we can lessen the impact, because, okay, let's say, for example, right now, let's just say he didn't have the masonry garage and the driveway for a second. There are two apartments in that home, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so the tenant gets one, I'm assuming, or no? The tenant doesn't get a parking spot?
The tenant will get a parking spot.
Okay.
In fact, if I may, Mr. Chairman, upstairs, there's one tenant who has 2 pickup trucks that parks them on the side where the garage is, okay? Then the other tenant will actually be Mr. Princiato's son, or is actually a tenant in the building. He's going to use the 2 garages. It's just, you know, if you know, I don't know if he has 2 cars. I didn't ask Mr. Princiato, but that's what is happening, practically speaking, now. So the reason for the larger curb cut, the other question, you know, in doing a calculation that I haven't done, given your suggestion, Mr. Chairman, is if we did that, would we be creating off-street parking? Is there, you know, is there going to be enough space for the off-street parking?
Yeah, it's a question of what the neighbor's distance is to their.
Exactly,
next
and I haven't looked at that, and I will if you want me to.
It's a good concept if you could make it work for everybody.
Right. The other problem is the tremendous expense of taking away the wide.
Well, that's.
The cost of doing business.
Concrete, yeah.
Right.
It's extra.
What did the new plan show when the house was built? How many curb cuts were there?
There was one, right?
I think there may have been one. The issue arose when you know, our diligent code enforcement officer, Mr. Hsu, noticed that another driveway they were planning to put the other driveway on the east side. In fact, and I even have pictures, Mr. Princiato went to the building department and Public Works to discuss the removal of a light post that was, and I actually have photographs of it if you want to see it, and I can forward more.
But
So
the plans seem to show 3 garages here. Am I
Yeah,
incorrect?
there's 3 garages.
Yeah.
So how many curb cuts were shown when the permits were granted for the?
Yeah, sure.
Well, the house wasn't it raised and renovated?
Oh, it was it was
a
a huge red house, if
Yeah.
you remember, that was in a dilapidated condition.
Yeah.
And that's what we were going to take down to build the 2 houses. But instead, we made the remnants of that house, this new house. We totally demolished the other house, right?
No, I raised the
You did,
existing house. and
right.
I go-
You need to
go-
put
Yeah,
your
we're gonna
name
put
and
you-
address on the record.
Right.
Up to Mike, put your name and address on the record.
Charles Princiata, President Castle Quality Homes.
Just your address, please, sir.
Address.
354 West Market Street, Long Beach.
So Commissioner Leonetti had a
I wanted to
question.
answer your question.
Yeah.
So what we were doing at the time, I was getting ready to raise this house, and the footings the existing footings that were old, the house 100 years old, were undermined. The basement collapsed. We got a 24, Mr. Kelly helped me get an immediate permit to lift that existing house. Within 24 hours, I had a crew there and we lifted the house. So the plans never showed any curb cuts at all. The original plans that I submitted to raise the house, I failed, we failed, whoever failed, nobody saw it. There were nothing was drawn on the plans, to answer your question. So it's not like I proposed 1 or 2 or 3. We didn't propose any. We only proposed to lift the existing property.
And how many curb cuts were there when you started?
There was 1 curb cut because there was only the detached garage.
Right.
The double one, it was 20 feet wide. And then the existing house had no garages. However, once we lifted it,
Okay.
then we created
So
the 2
the
garages.
existing curb cut was in line with the garage?
Yes, sir, the
All right, so
detached garage.
So the 2 new curb cuts are for the 2 garages that are under the house?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's
So-
what I wanted to say. So there were nothing was drawn on the plans, to answer your question.
So I guess the question is, if you did combine the 2 curb cuts to give you one that would like veer slightly to the right and the other one to the
Well,
garage,
if
would you be adding a spot between you and your neighbor? That's the question. In
Well,
other
the
words,
real question is it physically possible? And there's a column, which this photo that you have right now doesn't really show exactly. It would be a dilemma, because I remember I was trying to avoid the fee of $3,300 to move the existing light pole that was there. So when I went to the building department, they said, well, if you want to move the pole, just pay the fee, which I paid $3,300 to move the pole. And prior to that, I discussed with my concrete guy how we could make the garage accessible with 1 curb cut. and leave the pole, but we couldn't make it work because there's a support column that's in the way. Again, you don't have a drawing, but that it would not make it possible to make one curb cut to access both of the new garages. That's the answer.
Mr. Princiano, does your son have two cars?
He does. He's a New York City fireman,
Your son
and he
has two
takes one
cars?
car into...
So your son has two cars and your tenant has two cars?
My tenant, I believe, has 3 cars. There's 3 people that live there.
Sorry, I thought it was one, excuse me.
To Commissioner Alton's point that we were discussing, if you look at one of the photographs, I believe in each of your packages, you should have 3 or 4 photographs. Actually, 2.
I can see it here, yeah.
So if you look at where the, for lack of a better expression, the wide driveway is, there's a driveway right next to that for the next house just west of the
one with
property
garbage can there.
as well.
I don't think you're gonna get a spot there.
And I mean, given the description of how many cars are already with the 2 tenants, I think it seriously relieves the off-street parking potential problems on that block. Though I don't disagree with Mr. Chairman relative to the parking issues that are endemic throughout town. So I'm going to ask that you grant the variance to allow the 3 curb cuts in front of 142 West Broadway. I do, let me just submit this picture for the record. I'll send more copies. I just handed these this evening. There might be one for each zoning board member. The photograph that Mrs. Lynch is handing you is the photograph of the easterly garage with the pole that Mr. Princiano was referencing.
Oh, that's the one they had to relocate.
Right, that's the 300.
So is this garage, I guess it must have been in the permit, why didn't it go through when it was originally designed? What happened?
According to what Mr. Princiano, somebody made a mistake, whether it was him, the architect, the building department. I mean, nobody was looking for, I guess.
No, I mean just the curb cut, yeah, it should have been, yeah. I mean, it was, yeah.
The pole was in the way, the pole was hiding the curb cut.
Funny, yeah. All right.
I will.
To me, the issue is three curb cuts for one house, when you could get plenty of parking with 2 curb cuts, because that side, on the right-hand side of the house where the garage is, you can fit 4 cars in there pretty easily. And so I think 3 curb cuts is an imposition on the neighborhood for one house. It's just my opinion.
So you would suggest eliminating entirely one of the curb cuts?
Yeah, I think two curb cuts and parking for 4 or 5 cars should be
God bless you.
adequate.
God bless.
Thank you.
Well, I don't expect you to vote this evening, so I am going to do a little more homework and
Okay.
see you next month on this one.
God bless.
God bless you.
So.
Unless you have something else.
I think, does anybody in the audience have anything to say? I'll give them a chance. All right, I see 2 hands. Come on up. Let's give them a chance before we, the case will remain open for voting, I believe, but I'm going to give the people to speak for or against.
Good afternoon.
Address, please. Name and address.
Carlos Garcia. I live 137 West Fulton Street, across the street from the house that he got.
Across the street.
Yes.
Okay.
I received a letter from the city hall to, for everybody in the block received a letter to see if we agreed with the cert want to do it. But 3 cars garage door over there in the front, cover our parking space. We don't have problem with the parking space already. Now he got a driveway plus 2-door garage. That's too more for us, So the other day I had to call the police and somebody to park from my driveway because they couldn't have no space. Even the people from the, from From over here, the project, they go they park over there because they don't want nobody to scratch the cars. So they assigned me to get some signatures, and I got 20 signatures over here. They're against that.
You want to submit that?
Yes.
What?
Good, thank you, sir. Is that your wife? Or
My
do you wanna
wife,
speak
Margaret
also,
Garcia.
ma'am? Come up, please. Give us your name and address. We'll enter those signatures into the record.
Marguerite Garcia, 137 West Fulton Street. We lived at the house for 35 years. We always had parking problems. And then now we're gonna have a place, everybody has one driveway. Now we're gonna have 3 driveways in one spot. It's not good because it's gonna be taking away car spots from the people who don't have a driveway. Two houses for me, 135 and 139, don't have a driveway where they could put their car. They have 2 or 3 cars, they're gonna park, they don't have no parking space. They have to go to Magnolia or National Boulevard to park. And there's one lady comes home late at night, and she parks in 139. She's never gonna get a spot because all our spots are gone. And then he's gonna put 2 more parking spaces. It's gonna be taken away from the people who lived there for years. And this is a new house. So you got 20 signatures against who don't want that to happen. Yeah. So we make that petition, so hopefully they'll help us so these people can have a place to park.
All right. Thank you very much. You're welcome, sir. Anyone else? All right, the case is going to remain open until voting. Thank you. All right, next case.
Case number 3295, application of Michael and Wendy Goldstein of 83 Joyce Road, Plainview, New York, for a variance on the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.13C lot area, 9-105.13D building area, 9-105.13E front yard, 9-105.13F side yard, 9-105.13F1 side yard, 9-105.13G rear yard, 9-105.13I density, 9-105.13K off-street parking for a proposed 7-story multiple dwelling at 454 East Broadway, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 160, Lot 28, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman. Dennis Kelly, 120 West Park Avenue, Long Beach, New York, 11561. Here on behalf of the applicants, Wendy and Michael Goldstein. This is currently a home on 454 East Broadway, which is on the south side of Broadway. It's currently a 4-family home. It's not in great condition. I've submitted a photograph of the home, square on. Presently, being a 4-family, there's 1 2-bedroom, 1 bath on the first floor in the front. There's 1 bedroom, 1 bath on the first floor in the back. And then in addition, in the back, there's also a studio apartment with 1 bath. On the second floor is a 4-bedroom, 2 baths. Right now on the property, there's only 1 parking spot, 1 off-street parking spot. When Mr. Goldstein bought the home about 5 years ago, there were no parking spots on 454 East Broadway, believe it or not. But he got the 1 parking spot by virtue of a variance. The property is violated frequently for cars parking in front of the house on the concrete presently. What we're seeking to build, and therefore all the variances, as Mrs. Lynch read off, is a brand new FEMA compliant 7-story building, which will have 9 parking spaces underneath, one of which will be a handicap parking spot. There'll be 4 3-bedrooms, 2-bath apartments, 1 each on the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th floors. They're actually very spacious if you look at the plans. There will be 2 two-bedrooms, 1 bath on floors 2 and 3. The building will have an elevator and 2 staircases, obviously going through all floors. The bulkhead, which you see in the plans, will be a recreation area for, a community recreation area, yoga classes or things of that nature, as well as storage and the washer and dryer. On the rear roof of the building will be the mechanicals, and on the front of the building, in front of that bulkhead, will be a rooftop garden, at least the way Mr. Goldstein envisions it now. You'll see that in the plans on each floor there is a corner terrace in the front and a corner terrace in the back. They both happen to be on the west side of the property. The building at the top of the bulkhead is 82 feet tall. To the top of the roof, it's 73 feet, 9 1/8 inches. Mr. Goldstein foresees renting the 2-bedroom apartments for somewhere between $2,500 and $3,000, I guess, but by the time the building's done. And the larger apartments will go up as high as $4,000 a month, right now, the way he envisions it. I think it would be a good addition to the neighborhood, given what's there now. Relatively speaking, that Residence L is a resident district that has morphed or evolved over time. This is not necessarily out of the character of the building. Bear in mind, it's FEMA compliant, and that adds 15 feet of height to the building. The base flood elevation, I believe, is 15 feet for this building. There's a similar building, a little smaller. I'm not quite sure if it's FEMA compliant. That's further down east. And as you know, there's plenty of apartment buildings. In fact, if you look at the photograph that we've submitted, there's an apartment building right behind this building. With that, I ask that you pass all the variances. So simply to address the law, it's not out of character with the neighborhood because there's various different types of building. It'll be a nice new addition. It'll be FEMA compliant. It will provide far more parking than that's there now. It's at least 1 space per unit.
There's a lot less units though now.
I'm sorry?
I said, but Mr. Keller, there's a lot less units there now.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, somebody could say, this house doesn't provide any parking, but it could be a 1-family house. And, you will say that there's, what did you say, 7 spots?
9.
9 spots provided. I mean, I don't see an apartment building this size that it's only going to generate 9 cars. I mean, my concern would be that something this size is going to generate 2 to 3 times that when you're done with guests and, you're done with, people have 2 cars. A lot of people these days have a car and a truck, car and a Jeep, so, I mean, I don't know, All right, so go ahead, continue. It's not a very wide piece of property either.
No. I was hoping to have the architect, Joseph Gallinaro, with me this evening, but he had a family commitment with his daughter.
The plans are really self-evident. I mean, we don't need to hear from him. We can see what it is.
Obviously, if you've got, I do like to take notes. If you have any questions for him,
Yeah.
we will get back to you. Go ahead.
Scott, you mentioned that there's another property similar to the one on your plans a little further out east or down.
I think it's an 800 block.
When was that built?
Shokri and,
Yeah, that may have been. I think it's. I would assume it's post Sandy, so it may be elevated. I'm assuming that. I can get more information on the building and shoot you a photograph as well. But it's similar in the design and the look. And it's tall, might be as high as,
I mean, there are,
5 stories.
Of that size that you're talking about.
Right.
But unfortunately, none of them are really particularly aesthetic because they're very tall and thin. They go north to south. I mean, you take some of the buildings that are north to south, but they tend to be larger, much larger, wide apartment buildings, you know, that we know are apartment buildings, and, you know, they're kind of more in proportion, you know, just something to consider. I'm not saying that that would make it a go or a no-go, but just comments. Yeah, I'd like to hear from, if there's anybody in the audience, because I see a bunch of people still sitting around. I'll call people up individually. And name and address for the record, please. For or against?
My name is Robert McLaughlin. I reside at 456 East Broadway.
Okay, where are you in relation to the subject property?
I'm the next door property to the east of the building.
That smaller house?
Yes, it's a 1.5-story, 2-family house, 16 feet high.
You're the owner of the house?
Yes.
Okay, and just give us your name again, Carl.
Robert?
Go ahead.
McLaughlin.
McLaughlin, okay. Go ahead, Mr. McLaughlin.
Okay, we're here to talk about a proposed 7-story structure on a 40-foot lot. First of all, there is no other 7-story structure in Long Beach on Broadway. As Mr. Kelly suggested, it's not a 7-story structure. What Mr. Goldstein's proposing here is to awkwardly place a 7-story building in the middle of a block of 2-story structures, and my house is 1-story. And currently, you know, I'm concerned about the density in that area, about having 9 cars parked within 10 feet of my house underneath a structure. You know, the fire hazard that could actually, you know, I could incur, you know, and also as far as fire safety goes, when there's a fire on an upper floor in a building, it's far more difficult for firefighters to get to that location. It's difficult for them to remove or protect residents in that property. A tall, narrow, high-rise residence could have many problems when it comes to fire safety. Accessibility for an aerial ladder to the bedrooms in the back of the apartment, the proximity of the setback of the building. He is on the east side of the house. He's 4 feet off the property line. I have an 8-foot driveway there. So the overhang on my roof is 10 feet from his property, okay? So I'm concerned about all the cars parked underneath the building. I'm concerned about the height of the building. It's, you know, difficult for firefighters to stretch a hose line up to the upper floors. My house is the immediate exposure to this building in case of a fire right over there. Also, you know, weather conditions on upper floors can radically alter the intensity of a fire. To have a 7-story structure in the middle of a 2-story block is just going to look grotesque and awkward. You know, and I feel like the parking, you know, 9 spots, if there's that many units, there's more than 9 cars. And, you know, already we have the Long Beach Hotel on the block. We have the Sherwood House, which has limited off-street parking. We have a garden apartment at 470 East Broadway, which has no off-street parking. And every other house on the block is either condos or 4-story houses that have very limited off-street parking. It's, you know, it's a huge burden on the people who live on that block to come home at 5 or 6 o'clock at night, and there's no spots. They have to park blocks and blocks away, and we experience that all the time. So I'm concerned about the parking, I'm concerned about the fire safety, and I just feel like, you know, plopping this structure, you know, basically this is like a sliver building. It's like a tall, narrow building. It's just not in character with the neighborhood, and I just think it would just look. I think, first of all, it really flies in the face of the intent of the zoning laws. To, you know, there's zoning laws in place, setbacks, density, off-street parking. All these things are in place to protect our town and the residents who live on that block. I've owned this house since 1986. I've been paying taxes for over 35 years on this house. And I just think that, you know, Mr. Goldstein, he's a non-resident. He's coming in. I feel it's like simply land exploitation to, you know, turn a 40-foot lot into a 7-story structure. I think it's outrageous, to tell you the truth.
Thank you very
and
much.
I just hope the zoning board takes that into consideration.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right, thank you.
There was somebody else that wanted to if you want to add to it, or, okay. So basically, I think, Mr. Kelly, we understand the project quite well. I don't think there's any more need to explain it further. We understand. Someone else? Go ahead, come on up, sir. Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand. No, it's all right, don't worry.
Good evening, everybody.
Just give us your name and address, and if you want to...
All right. My name is John Herr. I reside over at...
Your last name, I'm sorry, sir.
John Herr, H-U-R. My father's name is Ben Herr, believe it or not. Everybody calls me son of Ben, so that's how everybody remembers.
That's not a bad thing, though.
Yeah, no, I like to think it's a good thing. My father
know?
would be proud that I threw that little
Famous
plug
guy.
out there. So I live at 445 East Broadway. I live across the street from the property in question here. I actually am a condo board member as well. So I also had similar concerns as this gentleman here. Obviously, it's a very difficult parking situation to begin with, as you can imagine if you guys will live in Long Beach. This will only, I guess, exaggerate that problem even further, because based off of the units and the parking spots, it's going to create even more of a bigger parking situation, because at least, you know, the numbers didn't really make sense, was one of the things I wanted to bring to your attention. Also, in terms of the flow, in terms of the layout of the houses, I mean, this is the only house. So if you look, I mean, I have a picture here. My phone's down there. Well,
That's
actually,
okay, you want to submit it to, you know, to the board.
Okay.
Go ahead, just send it to the secretary, that's fine.
All right,
This way you
and-
don't have to go crazy looking for it.
I appreciate that.
Because we're not going to vote on this tonight anyway, so
Okay. And in
we're
regards-
gonna hold it off.
Okay, and in regards to the property that they were referring to, that building was only four or five stories, not 7. I'm sorry? On the 800 block, the property that
Yeah.
they're referring
No,
to.
I understand. I know the
Yeah,
building.
so, and then, you know, as he alluded to, that whole block, so basically all the houses in the middle of the block, with the exceptions of the ones on the corners that obviously have, I guess maybe there may be some permission to get to build higher, but I guess all the blocks, all the buildings in the middle, none of them are higher than 2 stories. So basically, it would kind of ruin the whole flow, the aesthetics of the whole block. It would be an eyesore on that block.
Okay.
You know, so it's just like, you know, that I can submit those pictures, it really would stick out like a sore thumb if you saw that block. So that's pretty much the 2 main points I wanted to bring up to you guys. And I'll send everybody's regards to Ben Herr.
Thank you.
Thank you for
All right, thank
everyone's
you.
time,
There's
guys.
somebody else?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Or basically, we echoing the sentiments of the 2 gentlemen, we understand. All right, I think the case is going to remain open until voting, Mr. Kelly. You probably expected that. So, go ahead. No, nobody else.
I'm good, I'm sorry, Commissioner. I was just going to say thank you.
Thank you, welcome. All right, folks, no other cases or matters of business to be heard. All right, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting of April 28th, 2022 is now closed.
I just have to turn the camera off because we're still.